Well, good afternoon. My name is Bob Dwyer, Executive Director of Central Massachusetts Agency on Aging. I'm in for Nick Caltz's today. He needs a little bit of time off, we'll put it that way, so he asked me to sit in with him. And I'm very pleased to have as our guest today Senator Mike Moore from Millbury.
Nice to see you again.
It's nice to see you. We always say you're Senator Moore from Millbury, but your district really covers several other towns. And what towns do you cover? What parts?
Well, I actually cover probably about 40% of the city of Worcester. I cover wards 5, 6, 7, the entire wards, and then precincts 1 and 5. Actually, 1 and 5 will be as of January. Right now, I have the full ward, 5, 6, 7, and 8, but with the redistricting, they've removed 3 of the precincts and put that in Senator Chandler's district. And I'll also, as of January, be covering half of the town of Northridge precincts 2 and 4. Okay. So they've taken a little bit, some of the urban area and replaced it with some of the suburban area.
And now, so Millbury and then...
yeah, Leicester, Auburn, Millbury, Grafton, Shrewsbury, Upton, and then precincts 2 and 4 of Northbridge.
Well, you're a busy man.
Yes, about 170,000 people.
Because I noticed, I follow you on social media,
yeah.
and you're everywhere. You're very, very busy, and I know it's a political season, but at the same time, you've always been kind of out in the public.
I was going to say, one thing since I was elected 4 years ago, I never wanted people to say about me, my constituents, was that they only see me during an election year. So I've tried to make it my policy and practice that whether it's an election year or not, you're going to see me in the same places, the same events, and make an emphasis on really trying to be accessible to people. And a lot of good legislative initiatives or concepts that we can try to push with state agencies comes with various groups that you meet with. When I first got elected, I was chairman of the Committee for Small Business and Community Development. We actually went around the state touring with all the chambers of commerce, and they gave us some great initiatives, legislative initiatives that were being put forth in areas that they thought we needed to emphasize. Some of it was small business, it was regulation in small business. Some of it had to do with healthcare, financing issues, and if I look back over the 4 years I was in office, I just most recently worked with the Blackstone Valley Chamber, helping them develop a micro loan program where if you have say you have a small business that needs a loan for $100,000, or say $80,000, and they can only get financing for $50,000. Well, this program fills the gap. The interest rates might be a little higher, but at least it provides the financing to help that business get up and running or stay in existence. We had some small business healthcare issues where back in the early 90s, the small business complained about the cost of healthcare. And up until about 2 years ago, there was constant double-digit increases. When we did a small business healthcare reform package, I think 2 years ago, what we allowed for was the reauthorization of group purchasing or pooling of small companies. And I think it was in the early 90s. It actually had been prohibited except for the banking industry. The banks could still do it. Well, when we did this small business healthcare reform, that was one thing we allowed was for now these associations to actually offer group purchasing in a way of trying to lower the rates for our small businesses. And the last one, which was really, which they really brought to my attention was, and actually it's been some of these business advocates in Massachusetts have said it's been one of the most significant achievements for small businesses. It's called the fair share, and it has to do with when they passed the law in 2006, companies with 50 FTEs, full-time equivalents, not 50 employees, but full-time equivalents, between 50 and 11 full-time equivalents, had to provide insurance for 25% of their employees. If they couldn't do that, they would be fined $295 per person per quarter. Wow. Now, what they didn't factor in, or what companies weren't allowed to factor in, were employees who had health insurance through another means. So you could have a company that had, say, 49 employees or 49 FTEs, and 39 of these FTEs had insurance through a spouse, Medicare, or a veterans program. but they weren't allowed to add them into the 25%. So they could never reach that threshold. So you had companies that were being penalized for that. And this most recently, before we ended session, I was able to change that. I was a lead sponsor on it, and I ended up getting support from the minority leader in the Senate, and which ended up passing. And then in the House, the minority leader in the House, George Peterson, actually pushed it from the House side. So it's actually a good example of bipartisanship, that an issue being evaluated on its merits, regardless of what party people were in. But again, this initiative came forth by me going out and meeting with the various groups that represent small businesses and bringing this issue forward. I really think any legislator, when they're or elected official, when we're going to events or we're going to meetings and we're meeting with different groups, everyone thinks that we like to get up and talk. I actually, for the most part, I actually like to sit there and do a lot of listening, because the more input you get from your constituents or the business sectors or whatever group you're meeting with, you really do find out some of the problems with the laws that are in existence, and some changes, minor changes, but have big impacts on certain sectors. So again, I really tried to make it a priority of mine to be accessible. I mean, I have turkey dinners at senior centers. Every senior center, we do a turkey dinner for them every year. And some of them, in the town of Upton, it's got to be their largest event now. I think we had almost 90 seniors there last year. So, and we've actually already got them scheduled for this year.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Just talking about seniors for a minute and the legislation besides, one of the things that you and I have talked about in the past, actually here with Nick, was the recent changes to the foreclosure industry.
Yes. Yep.
And how the laws now in the state are now made to help the individuals learn more about exactly what's going on, and then to stave off that foreclosure so that everybody can get on the same page.
Right. And actually, one report that we've looked at, people 55 and older are filing bankruptcy 12% more than they did 13 years ago. And that they currently account for 22% of all bankruptcy filings in the United States. So that's one segment I really, I think prior to doing this, I don't think most people would think that a lot of our seniors are in this current situation of them being in these upside down mortgages.
Right.
I think everyone thinks it's more the middle class person, the working man or the young person that may have made the investment and now they can't afford the loan or the mortgage. But actually, so we have a pretty good amount of our seniors that are being impacted by this.
Well, seniors are impacted by everything that takes place, really. I think we forget just how limited income for seniors can be.
Yes.
When you look at what the poverty level is, what the federal poverty level is, that an individual making less than $12,000 is at 100% of the poverty level. And a lot of the eligibility requirements raise it to about 133% of the poverty level. So you're still only talking less than $14,000 a year in revenue or in income for someone to be eligible for some of these programs. So that when you're talking about attempting to maintain a house, so not just paying if you've extended your mortgage or remortgaged your home, but also trying to keep the housing stock up so that you can maintain that equity in the home in terms of its physical properties. It gets very, very difficult for seniors. I thank God that my mother, who actually lived in Millbury, because that's where I grew up, luckily she rented from a relative, so her rent was kind of low, but even she had an issue. She was at about 133% of poverty level. And I'm not sure that she could have made it without that low rent from a relative, some assistance from my siblings and I, and her own willingness to be very, very cautious about her spending at times. There were times when she wasn't. I think we all have those times, but for the most part, she really wanted to live within her means.
Right.
And if she was solely responsible for all that upkeep, I'm not sure what would have happened with her.
Well, that's a lot of people don't realize too, is that seniors are very proud. They don't want to make that call that they need assistance or they need help. I mean, there are a lot of programs out there that are geared towards helping seniors or people just in need of assistance. And people should really, it's not a sign of weakness. There are going to be periods in everyone's life where they're going, things may not be going to in the best way for them. And that's when these programs should be utilized. We know we have abuses out there, people abuse the programs, but if you're really in need of assistance, you shouldn't let the people who are abusing the program stop you from accessing it or make you feel like it's a sign of weakness by accessing it. And I know we're talking mortgages, but just so we don't forget, I know people coming up with the winter months fast approaching. There is the Home Emergency Assistance Program, and if you are protected from electric or gas service shutoff if you have any financial hardship. So you or someone in your home who is seriously ill, or if you have an infant in your home under 12 months, or it is between November 15th and March 15th, and you are in the need of service for heat to your home, or all adults in the home are 65 or older, and a minor child resides there, you cannot have your services shut off. Now, there's a clearinghouse for emergency assistance for cold relief. It's called the Cold Relief Heat Line. It's 1-800-632-8175. And also for other heating assistance, there's they can give you important information regarding low-income heat, low-income home energy assistance programs, the LIHEAP, which is also weatherization of your home to prevent the heat loss, the heating system repair and replacement. And in order to be eligible, and this actually goes with what you were just saying, in order to be eligible for LIHEAP, you must have income less than 60% of the state median income, which does include most seniors.
Absolutely will. Absolutely will.
And let's see, last year alone, LIHEAP helped over 200,000 people in Massachusetts. And you can also call, to access the LIHEAP, you can call the Worcester Community Action Council, and their number is 508-754-1176. It's at extension 110. There's also, whether it's the mortgage foreclosures or it's the heating programs, the senior centers or the Council of Aging are great resources. I know there's in the town of Auburn, they have a Keep Auburn Warm program that they raise money specifically for fuel assistance for people in need over the winter months. I know in Millbury they had the Police Association. They also had a program. But the senior center is a great place to go. You know, even if you're not a senior, I mean, they're going to have access to information on programs that's out there for people to utilize.
Oh, that's absolutely right. I mean, that's why we call senior centers focal points,
Right.
because within any given community, the senior center, or even if it's a part-time COA office that might be open, will have that information available or know how to access some of that information for you, whether it's calling Central Mass Agency on Aging, my agency, going onto our website, seniorconnection.org, or even calling a local aging services access point, like
Worcester Elder Services
of Worcester, or Tri-Valley, or Montezut Home Care. You mentioned the Worcester CAC, which is always a great place to get information like that.
Yes.
And to apply it. And the good thing is now the application for fuel assistance really has spread out more. You can get it at CAC. At one point, that was the only place you could go to apply. But now many senior centers also have applications available, and they will assist the senior to sit there and actually fill out this application.
Oh, good.
So that's always a very, very important thing. You know, senior centers are the center of it all, you know, as we say in Milford. For all that information for seniors, they really are the first stop.
No, and a lot of senior centers today, I know they don't want to be called senior centers because they really do so much more. They are really becoming more of a community center.
Yeah.
As far as services that they offer, from computer services to dancing, there's exercise, there's all sorts of educational programs.
Turkey dinners, if
turkey dinners, yes. Yes. I know a lot of people are reluctant to even go down there. I don't want to go to the senior center. I'm not a senior, but there's really so many opportunities that are there.
They are there. They're very much so, and they're a great opportunity. All right, so let's take a break right now. We'll go to a commercial, and we'll be right back.
Millbury Healthcare Center is a highly respected 5-star deficiency-free skilled nursing and rehabilitation center. We are renowned for our compassionate care and specialty programming, making it possible for your next step, returning home. We listen and take the time to understand your goals. We provide support and the tools needed to safely prepare for your transition home. Millbury Healthcare Center is the community choice for skilled nursing and rehabilitation.
Does your loved one suffer from memory impairment, dementia, or Alzheimer's disease? Consider Dodge Park Rest Home in Worcester. Our geriatric medical team and nursing staff are available 24 hours a day. We offer medication administration and incontinence care with dignity. Our activity programs are designed to engage and stimulate the mind. And with Dodge Park Rest Home, you can better protect your estate and save your assets with only a 1-year look back. Your loved one will feel safe and at home with Dodge Park Rest Home of Worcester.
Join us Wednesday, November 7th at Holy Cross College for a free symposium open to the public, the second annual focus on Alzheimer awareness. There will be a free buffet lunch, free parking, raffle prizes, and more. To register, call 508-755-6525 or register online at theseniorfocus.com.
This is Virgil Gibson. Join me at the Hanover Theater on October 13th for a great night of music and comedy to benefit St. John's Food for the Poor. Buy your ticket and help close the funding gap so construction can start on Worcester's new St. John's Food for the Poor Center. Purchase your ticket now by calling 877-571-7469.
Tired of weather reports that don't focus on Central Mass? Introducing Worcester Weather, the only video weather report for Worcester. Worcester Weather is easily accessible 24/7 by visiting chartertv3.com. It is updated throughout the day to give you the best video forecast possible. Worcester Weather also airs at 5 p.m. during the Jordan Levy Show and every Worcester News Tonight telecast. Worcester Weather gives you the local forecast you have always wanted. Worcester Weather on Charter TV3 and chartertv3.com. Brought to you by Berterra Nissan of Auburn. Charter TV3 and UMass Memorial Healthcare have teamed up to bring you the latest news and trends in healthcare. Health Watch, presented by UMass Memorial Healthcare, brings you the healthcare topics that are important to you. From stroke prevention to allergies, skincare to sports injury prevention, and nutrition to pregnancy, Health Watch and UMass Memorial Healthcare informed you on the issues that affect you on a daily basis. Health Watch on Charter TV3. For extended interviews with UMass Memorial Healthcare experts, log on to our website.
I'm Andy Lacombe from Worcester News Tonight. Thank you for choosing Charter.
Well, welcome back. I'm Bob Dwyer, sitting in for Nick Kaltzis here on the Senior Focus. And again, our guest is, or my guest, because Nick's not here, my guest is Senator Michael Moore. And Senator, we were talking really about a number of things, but that the whole issue of that new foreclosure law.
Yes. We actually passed that towards the end of this last session. And actually, just some of the specifics of it was passed on July 16th. The bill requires banks and other lenders to offer loan modifications to borrowers in certain circumstances to avoid foreclosures. Lenders must conduct a complete financial analysis of the loan and offer a modification if it would be more beneficial to receive lower monthly mortgage payments than to foreclose on a home. There's also a 150-day time frame for deciding whether or not to offer the loan modification, which may come in the form of a reduced interest rate or principal, or an extension of the loan repayment period. The modified loans will allow borrowers to stay in their homes, lenders to avoid foreclosure costs and potentially market losses, and also it helps protect the neighborhood from abandoned properties, which can be a blight and also safety hazards. Loan modifications would be available for owner-occupied homes and apply to loans that are considered risky, such as mortgages with teaser rates, loans made with no income documentation, and interest-only loans. Borrowers who qualify will be provided with contact information for loan modification specialists in the Attorney General's office who will assist them in the negotiations. And the bill also incorporates two recent Supreme Court decisions requiring lenders to prove that they are the current legal holder of a mortgage and the holder of a mortgage note before beginning the foreclosure process. So those are actually just some of the highlights of the bill.
So, I mean, you had gone through earlier a number of different programs that the legislature's put in place to help small business.
Yep.
But now here's a program really that helps the individuals, it helps your constituents. So obviously you're not simply considered with, or considered of solely small business. You really are thinking about the individuals who are the homeowners, the individuals who are the ones who are trying to scrape together the money to pay the mortgages and pay all their bills. So I think that it's important for all of us to understand that even though a lot of what we see and hear is all about, especially in this presidential campaign, the small business and the businessman and the innovators and the entrepreneurs, it's got to be folks like you, particularly here on a more local level, who have to be concerned about what happens to the individuals in the neighborhoods.
When you nationally, you're hearing about the economy and job creators and businesses, 86% of the economy is based on small business. So yes, we have to create the atmosphere and the programs that can help businesses thrive, get created, hire new employees, but it's got to be a balance too. We have to look at protecting the individual also. Some of the protections that we looked at, like this past year when we passed a minimum insurance coverage for small businesses that they have to provide. Now, it's not saying, look, you have to provide a Cadillac plan, but we know there's going to be some costs, but there's got to be some sort of credible coverage that your employees can count on when they're going to work. If a healthy workforce is also going to healthy workforce and people enjoying their job going in is also going to make for a more stable type employment, and I think better better opportunities for the small business, that they know that they got people who are trained, want to come to work, enjoy working at these companies or businesses. I think that's beneficial to everyone.
And it's got to be beneficial to everyone. You're right. I mean, the healthy worker is the one who's going to be opening up the business for the owner, who's going to be working behind the desks or the cashier registers or whatever, stocking the shelves or doing the machining.
And if we have employees who are constantly leaving jobs, going from one employment to another, then there's a training aspect that goes back into it. One thing that I've heard over the last 4 years in office is that there's so much that we try to do to help businesses come to Massachusetts once they're here and established and thrive. But a lot of that we've heard from the business community is a stable environment is very important to them, and that goes as far as workforce, regulation, that it's very detrimental to the economy and businesses moving into an area if they can't depend on regulations staying the same, if they can't depend on fees or costs or workforce changes. I mean, they need to know that there's going to be stability in the workforce and these other factors, which will help bring them here and hopefully keep them here.
But stability is a tough thing. When you look at the cost of the utilities, you look at the cost of perhaps even the lease that a business may have, either for a land or within a building, but also taxes and what taxes mean to the small business owner as well as the large business owner as well as the homeowner. I mean, how do you really reach for that kind of stability when people are arguing at a national level and even somewhat at a state level about, do we increase taxes, do we maintain taxes, or do we decrease taxes?
Well, I think that's, being an elected official, an elected public official, it's about leadership, having to make the tough choices. Everyone wants the program, and I think the president, actually former President Bill Clinton, said it best when he spoke at the Democratic National Convention. It's simple arithmetic. If you want programs or certain services, or if you want the state to have loan programs or financial resources to provide small businesses, well, that money's got to come from somewhere. So in that case, you may have to see some fee increases or revenue enhancements. But I can say in Massachusetts we haven't done that. The last 4 years we've been, the first couple of years luckily we had the assistance of the federal ERA money, which helped us fund a lot of our local services, and we actually were able to increase our funding to local schools every year for 4 years. But we've also, each year, for the last 4 years, we've lowered the corporate excise tax. So it's now down to 8%. Now, this past year, the personal income tax, I know it's going to be a small percentage. It went from 5.3 to 5.25.
Right.
But if it had been reversed, everyone would have been upset that we were seeing an increase. But that was lowered. And I think both of those combined are about $150 million out of the state budget. And that's because the way the voters voted in the referendum, 15 years ago, however many years ago, before I was in office, the reductions were based on benchmarks. So every time that we meet certain benchmarks, the legislature is required to reduce the income tax. So when we hit that benchmark, so I think we've tried to, other than the sales tax, which was increased basically in the height of the recession, when we were trying to just maintain services, we really made an emphasis on trying to support the economy, local businesses, be innovative. I know one of the two other bills that came out of the committee I served on that were in larger pieces of legislation was a permit extension bill. And this is where, even though you're talking nationally about the economy, it all starts at home on the streets of our communities. That's where the small businesses are. So, we can have the national policies in place of how they want to regulate interstate commerce and larger business issues, but the day-to-day impact comes from our local communities and the state. A lot of it more so on the local end of it by the boards and commissions that are operating in our cities and towns. But because we had heard so much or got feedback so much from the business community about overregulation, one thing we did 2 years ago, we passed a regulatory impact statement that requires whatever state agency is looking at any sort of regulation change, they are required to do an impact study. This way, we know before any regulation, or they know before any regulation is enacted, what the impact is going to be on that business sector. So rather than just having, look, this is what we need, no concern of what the effect is going to be on the public or our communities or the business. Hopefully, we're going to know before these regulations are enacted. We also did on the local level. We passed a permit extension bill, which was actually renewed again this past summer for the next year. And what this did is it allows developers and contractors who had already gone through the local permitting approval process, which can be very time consuming.
Yes, it can.
It can take from months to years sometimes, to make them go, and they may have lost the financing for some of these projects that they may have been looking to begin. Well, rather than having them start all over again, the permit extension bill extended those permits so that once they were able to obtain the funding to move these projects along again, that they can get back in there at a quicker pace, and it's all about jobs. And really, if we can get developers or projects moving again, that's going to bring more people back to work. And if we look at housing, for example, you can't have a strong economy until you have good housing, a good housing market, and that again plays right into the mortgage foreclosure issues. I was just at a legislative breakfast with other colleagues of mine. The Mass Building Association and Retail Association, they had it at Holy Cross, and some of the retailers were actually talking about how the housing inventory now is being reduced, is starting to be depleted. So, and I just saw on the paper yesterday, I think they said housing in Massachusetts now is up 26%, I think it was. So, these are all good indicators. So if the surplus is being brought down, and we see the sales going up, we're up that much. If we can start getting a housing market back into play where we're getting housing construction, that means our carpenters, electricians, the tradespeople are all getting back to work, and hopefully that's going to start driving a bigger recovery.
Just to step back a minute, you talked about that tiny reduction in state income tax. And I have to admit, I understand the premise, you reach a benchmark, it drops. But as someone who, by virtue of my job, I need to look at the state budget every year.
Right.
And I need to listen to the fact that all the legislators are saying, well, the revenue is dropping. How do you reach a benchmark that will cause the income tax to drop?
Well, because the benchmark was established on increases in revenue. There had to be an estimated surplus of $1 billion. So when we reached the, I think it was based on 2 quarters of revenue results, and then when the estimate is $1 billion, at that point, the benchmark kicks in.
Okay.
So it's not.
So it has to do more with the benchmark than the actual revenue percent.
Correct. It's meeting It's meeting those benchmarks on what we think the revenue projection is going to be. Now, what we have this year coming up, the last 3 months, we may have to actually do a downward adjustment on the revenue benchmarks, because the last 3 months have actually come in below the benchmarks. I think the last month was 30 or 32 million below the benchmark. So I think we're roughly right around $80 or $90 million below where we thought we would be. So
we're talking about benchmarks, and we'll talk more when we come back.
Does your loved one suffer from memory impairment, dementia, or Alzheimer's disease? Consider Dodge Park Rest Home in Worcester. Our geriatric medical team and nursing staff are available 24 hours a day. We offer medication administration and incontinence care with dignity. Our activity programs are designed to engage and stimulate the mind. And with Dodge Park Rest Home, you can better protect your estate and save your assets with only a 1-year look back. Your loved one will feel safe and at home with Dodge Park Rest Home of Worcester.
Millbury Healthcare Center is a highly respected 5-star deficiency-free skilled nursing and rehabilitation center. We are renowned for our compassionate care and specialty programming, making it possible for your next step, returning home. We listen and take the time to understand your goals. We provide support and the tools needed to safely prepare for your transition home. Millbury Healthcare Center is the community choice for skilled nursing and rehabilitation.
Join us Wednesday, November 7th at Holy Cross College for a free symposium open to the public, the second annual focus on Alzheimer awareness. There will be a free buffet lunch, free parking, raffle prizes, and more. To register, call 508-755-6525 or register online at theseniorfocus.com.
This is Virgil Gibson. Join me at the Hanover Theater on October 13th for a great night of music and comedy to benefit St. John's Food for the Poor. Buy your ticket and help close the funding gap so construction can start on Worcester's new St. John's Food for the Poor Center. Purchase your ticket now by calling 877-571-7469.
Tune in to episode 8 of WooTube, playing now on Charter TV 3. You'll see videos by Demons Alley, Lewis and Garrels, Peter Neuendorfer, Crush Root, and Billy Mitchell, and an interview with Lisa Conant of the Hanover Theater.
This is at places like the Hanover Theater, overnight stays, and it's to really bring people into experience that it's safe, it's accessible, it's fun, there's world-class entertainment. We have a lot to offer everybody.
Here on
Charter TV 3's WooTube.
Coverage from Central Massachusetts for Central Massachusetts.
It was like nothing they've ever seen before. The race for U.S. Senate in Massachusetts is heating up this week.
Firefighters responded to the 2-alarm fire at around 4 a.m. Monday morning. The Vernon Street hydrant was ripped from the ground Sunday night in a car crash, sending gallons of water spraying into the air.
Reporters in the field and an in-depth local forecast. Worcester News Tonight on Charter TV 3.
I'm Caitlin Tivnan from Worcester News Tonight. Thank you for choosing Charter.
Well, welcome back. My name is Bob Dwyer. I'm sitting in for Nick Kalsis. Just to remind you that if you do want to get in touch with Nick, his website is LALAW.com or www.theseniorfocus.com. Or, of course, you can reach him at 508-755-6525. For my agency, if you want a little bit information on various benefits and opportunities that are available to seniors and to caregivers, that number will be 508-852-5539. But of course, our website at www.seniorconnection.org, all one word, and you're always welcome to visit that website 24/7. It's always there for you. So, Senator, we're in the height of a political season.
Yes.
The height of it. We have very little, just a few weeks left. Just a few weeks left. I think, tonight we were talking off camera about there's a debate tonight and there's a debate tomorrow night. So tonight is Scott Brown and Elizabeth Warren.
Right.
Tomorrow night is Joe Biden and Paul Ryan. So we're being given this opportunity to hear what they think, hopefully, what they really think, how they challenge each other, how they respond to each other. Now, what do you think about this whole process? I mean, talk to me about what you're seeing here and what your perception is.
Well, I think the amazing part about this election is, and we saw a little of it during the beginning stages of during the Republican primary, was the large influx of money that's being involved in this national campaign now. But I mean, how you're watching TV now, it's either a campaign-related ad related to the presidential campaign, or it's a U.S. Senate race campaign ad. So the amount of money that's being brought into the system, I think, far exceeds anyone's imagination. A year ago or 2 years ago, and since this case decision that was it Citizens United came down, I would never have dreamed of this much money being in it. But I think the part that I find amazing is that you'll see one candidate will directly state one position, then the other candidate in the next commercial is the exact opposite of what they're saying, that the other person's the exact opposite of what they're stating in the commercial. And then on the debates, we're seeing, and I actually, what I find more enjoyable is watching the debates, but then actually for the analysis after, because they have the fact checkers.
Yes.
To actually see if who was being more forthright with the information. Right now, I hate that, I think the last presidential debate, I think a lot of it goes into their performance.
Yes.
Well, do we want a good actor, or do we want someone who's actually putting out the right information, or the more truthful information? So I think that's actually the hardest part for us right now, is filtering through who's actually putting forth the correct information as far as their agenda, what they want to do, what they want to do if they get elected into office.
Well, that was pretty clear. I think even in the presidential debate, when the president mentioned the $5 billion tax cut that Governor Romney wanted to give to the wealthy, and he turned around and said, "I don't want to do that." And yet the fact checkers actually came out very shortly after, said, yes, what he's proposed is a $4.7 billion tax increase or drop or whatever.
But also there's no negative impact on our deficit.
Right, no negative impact on the deficit, and I don't know how that happens. Any of that happens. It seems that everything is about the deficit, but nothing will impact the deficit, and yet the deficit continues to grow. But I think, again, one of the things that we had talked about was the importance to pay attention to what goes on in these debates. The importance of paying attention to the details and to find out the truth as much as possible on what's being said, and that's it becomes part of our civic duty.
Well, yeah. I know everyone has their favorite TV station to watch. I know Charter Channel 3 is the #1 station that everyone watches. But
everybody watches.
But I'm sure every now and then someone goes off to Fox or CNN. I mean, try to watch both. I mean, when you're focused on one media outlet that has a certain philosophy, you may not be getting the
fair and balanced story.
Right. I know when I go to the gym, if I have the treadmill on, I'll try to have both on, and it's amazing to hear one spin or philosophy from one, then you hear it from the other, and it's the same issue, just given in two different philosophies.
Two different spins, yeah. When I go to the gym, I usually just go past the gym. It's just one of those things that I do. But it is true. I think that we're looking forward to this election in November. That could be one of the most important elections.
I think it is
taking place in this generation. This is, for those of us who have lived in Massachusetts, for those of us who have dealt with state government. Now, for me, I've been at the agency for over 16 years now, and I've been working with elders for almost 20 years. So watching how things go back and forth on Beacon Hill, and how administrations, when they can or cannot work with legislature, and what that does to the rest of us, how that affects us. For example, working in elder services, we know that our network did very, very well under Governor Weld and Governor Cellucci. And then probably not so well under another Republican governor.
Okay.
And we're still waiting to see what happens with the current governor. That's a big issue for all of us, as we talked earlier just about the revenue issue versus the taxes versus how much money we have to spend, et cetera. And that's something that we always pay attention to. So it does seem that for the most part, this election coming up, at least federally, is a lot about money. It's about taxes, it's about tax breaks, it's about tax increases, it's about small business, it's about large business. What else should we be talking about at the national level? I mean, I know that you're a state senator,
right.
So you're really focused on what goes on in our neighborhoods and in our communities. But as you said yourself, what happens here affects here.
It does. I mean, there's like the jobs bill that they talk about. Here's a piece of legislation that, again, if the information that's being put forth to us is accurate, was worth about 22,000 jobs in Massachusetts. So those votes being voted on by our United States senators or congressmen have a direct implication on our local job market here, or opportunities. Education funding, when we had the ERA funding that was coming through the state, when at the height of the recession, I mean, we would have had to have laid off. You would have seen teachers and firefighters and other important municipal services drastically reduced if we didn't have some of that money coming in. If you look at our economy here in central Massachusetts, I know there's been a recent issue with UMass and some layoffs there, but we received a lot of federal money for research and development that comes into Massachusetts. Prior to the bad news coming out there, education and healthcare had been one of the most strongest and increasing job market sectors that we've had in Massachusetts. And a lot of that, again, comes from research money that was coming into Massachusetts from the federal government. So a lot of people don't realize that, but that was help feed our economy.
A lot of that was due to Ted Kennedy.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that we sometimes forget how longevity in office can be of great assistance to the local states.
Well, and also, I also give Congressman McGovern a lot of credit here for Central Massachusetts.
Absolutely, yes.
Helping direct some money here to help grow our economy. If you look at the life sciences, and that's from the state end, resources are provided there. Then from the state end, we've got the life sciences tax incentives that have been developed. If you look at the biotech park we have, I mean, when that was first being implemented or drawn up, we were only hoping to compete with Cambridge in these areas, and,
sure.
And we're there. We are one of the main sectors now in this area. So just think of the jobs that wouldn't be there. The Albie Sherman building right now that's being constructed, it's one of the largest projects in the state. I think it's over $300 million. So the construction jobs that are going into that building, in constructing that, and then when that's completed, all the other jobs that are going to be needed to to fill the demand of the supply and the research and development in the medical field. I mean, so it's going to be a continued benefit, drawing people to this area, providing jobs. We like to credit ourselves with having the intellectual capital of our workforce, but if we don't have the jobs for them to fill when they graduate, that means they leave the state.
Right.
So we need that to provide them the job opportunities so that when they leave our public colleges and universities, they've got the opportunities to stay here and they don't move on.
Well, I remember even when I was in college myself, and I went locally at Assumption, one of the great things that the consortium was talking about was that with a high percentage of students who graduate from colleges and universities in central Massachusetts stay in central Massachusetts at that time. And so now I look at, I have two nieces graduating locally. Actually, one's graduating from college in the spring, one's actually just graduated from high school and in college. And wondering what they're going to do when they get out. You know, my grandkids are not that close, and that's fine, you know, got a long way to go. But the reality is you begin to wonder how people will support themselves, what kind of jobs may or may not be available going forward.
Well, that's, if we look at, again, the actions in Washington and how they affect us here, Quinn Sigmund Community College, we are trying to enhance, well, actually, we just in the last budget, we just did a major reform of our community college system, better integrating workforce development programs with the community colleges. We've had a group out of Boston, the Boston Foundation, that identified about 100,000 jobs that are available in the allied health fields or the advanced manufacturing fields, but we don't have the skilled workforce to fill those positions. So, working with the business community, we are trying to better coordinate the services with our community colleges. But Quinn Sigmund Community College was actually one of the leaders last year. We're in putting the entire 15 community colleges together into one grant, strictly from and they received a $20 million Department of Labor grant. Now, again, this is Washington, because the money is coming from Washington back to the states. Now, that money is going to be used to retrain workers who have possibly lost their jobs, or it's going to be used for students entering the community college system who need to learn the skills to go out and provide, to get jobs. So again, there's a direct tie between the money being appropriated in Washington and then it being administered or put into the system at the local level by the state or local government.
Now, as these students come back for new training or for retraining, are the skills that are being offered to them or the courses offered to them based on what people know is needed in the community?
And yes, and that's the whole point with getting a better involvement from our business community, is that we're going to be providing skills in the careers where we know there are opportunities for students when they're graduating.
And that's a great thing to know.
Yep.
And we'll be right back.
Millbury Healthcare, respected 5-star deficiency-free skilled nursing and rehabilitation center. We are renowned for our compassionate care and specialty programming, making it possible for your next step, returning home. We listen and take the time to understand your goals. We provide support and the tools needed to safely prepare for your transition home. Millbury Healthcare Center is the community choice for skilled nursing and rehabilitation.
Does your loved one suffer from memory impairment, dementia, or Alzheimer's disease? Consider Dodge Park Rest Home in Worcester. Our geriatric medical team and nursing staff are available 24 hours a day. We offer medication administration and incontinence care with dignity. Our activity programs are designed to engage and stimulate the mind. And with Dodge Park Rest Home, you can better protect your estate and save your assets with only a 1-year look back. Your loved one will feel safe and at home with Dodge Park Rest Home of Worcester.
Join us Wednesday, November 7th at Holy Cross College for a free symposium open to the public, the second annual focus on Alzheimer awareness. There will be a free buffet lunch, free parking, raffle prizes, and more. To register, call 508-755-6525 or register online at theseniorfocus.com.
Charter TV3 and UMass Memorial Healthcare have teamed up to bring you the latest news and trends in healthcare. Health Watch, presented by UMass Memorial Healthcare, brings you the healthcare topics that are important to you. From stroke prevention to allergies, skincare to sports injury prevention, and nutrition to pregnancy, Health Watch and UMass Memorial Healthcare informed you on the issues that affect you on a daily basis. Health Watch on Charter TV3. For extended interviews with UMass Memorial Healthcare experts, log on to our website.
Join me on the Hank Stoltz Experience. You know, people are always asking me, what is the experience? Well, that's the beauty of it. It's everything that has to do with Central Massachusetts, from the politics of the region to the great events that are going on each and every weekend or every night right here in Central Mass. It's everything that's going on. It's everything that you want to know about. And just like Kelly Square, where the traffic never stops, we never stop either. There's no red lights on the Hank Stoltz Experience, only on Charter TV 3.
Tired of weather reports that don't focus on Central Mass? Introducing Worcester Weather, the only video weather report for Worcester. Worcester Weather is easily accessible 24/7 by visiting chartertv3.com. It is updated throughout the day to give you the best video forecast possible. Worcester Weather also airs at 5 p.m. during the Jordan Levy Show and every Worcester News Tonight telecast. Worcester Weather gives you the local forecast you have always wanted. Worcester Weather on Charter TV3 and chartertv3.com. Brought to you by Berterra Nissan of Auburn.
I'm Siobhan Connolly from Worcester News Tonight. Thank you for choosing Charter.
Well, welcome back as we start looking at the close of our hour. Just again to remind you that if you want to get in touch with Nick Kalsis and his law firm, you can go to his websites at edlalaw.com or theseniorfocus.com, or give him a call at 755-6525. That would be 755-6525. And we are still here with Senator Moore. Senator, as we mentioned earlier, there are debates coming up. There are debates tonight, tomorrow night, and then in the weeks to come up until November 6th. So what are we going to start looking for in these debates? What is it that we should be listening for?
I think we should be listening for what the person wants to do. There's so much negative campaigning on things that have been done in the past. I mean, let's talk about what you want to do in the future. I mean, look, I'm very proud of my voting record, so I like to talk about my voting record. And I'm sure Scott Brown is the same way, and Elizabeth Warren too. I mean, but talk about the positives. I mean, there's no reason to be. I think there's so much focusing on going negative on in elections campaigns about making people look bad. Let's just talk about the issue. You don't have to rip someone down to make your point or try to get out to the public that I'm the better person to be elected to office, that I'm the better person to serve on your behalf.
I'll be honest with you, and you've heard me say this before. I am so turned off by negative advertising. It is one of the worst things. You know, I start leaning towards a candidate and they start going negative, right, and I immediately start backing off, because I think it's just, and it gets back to exactly what you're just saying. You know, you're telling me one hand about who you are and what you're supposed to be about, and yet you're doing this, you're saying this, you're allowing this to happen in your name. Now, I know that some of it comes from national campaign people, the National Senate campaign, the National Congressional campaign, a presidential campaign.
Well,
but at the same
time, you have these other groups now that are weighing in.
Exactly,
right,
and that's part of the issue. But I think that a candidate can easily stand up and say, "Look, that's not necessarily my state, right, or my ad, and this is what I want to do. This is what I think. This is what I believe. This is my vision of the future." So hopefully tonight, when Elizabeth Warren and Scott Brown meet, we'll hear some of that, and then again tomorrow night when Paul Ryan and Joe Biden meet.
Yeah, and I really do think this is one of the more important elections that we've had in many years, as far as, you know, all the financial analysts or economists are talking about. You know, we've got that fiscal cliff. You know, is it real? Is it not real? We got to address it. Then our candidates all have their position on Medicare and vouchers, and, you know, one's a voucher, one's not. And then the tax policy, and, you know, look, I have young kids. I don't want to financially bankrupt them even before they're in the workforce. But I think we really need to start hearing a true position on some of our candidates on what they're going to do. You know, even maybe what they've done in the past, what their voting record is, but how they really want to move forward.
Yeah, I think that the forward-looking piece is one of the things that we really are missing right now. And it's nice for any candidate to say, and I don't want to pick on any candidate. I think the candidates running for the Senate in Massachusetts, they each have good, they each have less than good.
Right.
But it's one thing to say, I want to fight for your family. Well, what does that mean?
Right.
What are you going to fight for? What is my family? What do you think my family needs?
I'm going to fight for the middle class. So, well, what is the middle class for you? What is going to benefit the middle class, in your opinion?
Yeah, and what is, again, define, like you said, define the middle class. You know, when even President Obama gets up and says, yes, I want to raise taxes on people making $250,000 and more, and I'm going to myself, wow, if I had $250,000 in a year, I'd be right there, you know? I'd be right there. A lot of us don't work in those kinds of jobs where we make $250,000 a year.
Yeah. No.
You know, my wife works for a Fortune 500 company, and every once in a while they have to publish all that stuff, and I look at what they give to charity just for tax breaks. And I say to myself, wow, middle class, you know, middle class, here we are. We're going to be coming out to the end here. What final words would you want to offer to the people who are watching, who are the voters, in terms of what's going to be happening?
Just pay attention. Listen to both candidates. Try to find the true position. I mean, whether it's watching the debate and then the fact checkers later on that will actually give you the true facts on the various positions, the votes people have taken, or what their philosophy will actually mean if it's put into play. But other than that, just come out and vote. I mean, November 6th is one of the most important elections I think that we've had in a long time. So I just utilize your right to vote. Ask people to utilize your right to vote. Don't take it for granted. Every vote does count. As we used to say in politics class, exercise your franchise. You know, get out there and vote. And as I say to people, I don't want to hear it if you haven't gone to vote. And remember to watch Charter Channel 3. Charter Channel 3, they're going to have the best coverage available, especially if they would invite us back and let us be a couple of the pundits. So anyway, thank you, Senator, for being with us. Nice really appreciative. And from two Millbarians. Woolies. All right, we'll go Woolies. We'll move forward from that. Thank you for watching, and it's been a great hour, and we'll see you again soon. We just